In Italy, one family quietly controls more than cars, banks, and media. They hold the power to decide whether the entire economy thrives or collapses. In Italy, one family quietly wields a level of influence most governments can only dream of. They control major brands like Ferrari, Maserati, Jeep, and Chrysler, own a soccer club valued at over $2 billion, and command the country's largest bank. Their grip stretches across Italy's economy, reaching about 30% of the stock market and employing over 360,000 people worldwide. Yet, surprisingly, the majority of Italians, and indeed the world, have barely heard their name. They aren't merely industrial magnates. They are the family that can make or break Italy's economic fortunes. What makes their story even more remarkable is how they achieved this power by skillfully aligning themselves with whichever political forces dominated at the time, be it fascists, communists, or allied powers. Strap in, because this is the astonishing tale of how one family has dictated Italy's destiny for over a century. In Italy, wealth and authority rarely change hands because both are passed down through generations, often from palaces to boardrooms. Several families have quietly steered the country's economy behind the scenes. The Benettons in infrastructure, the Paralises in industrial production, the Berlusconis in media, but none compare to the Anellis. They are Italy's industrial royalty, having built or absorbed the nation's most iconic companies, shaped cultural identity, and transformed business into an engine of influence. When talking about the Anellis, the conversation always begins with Fiat. This car manufacturer became the heartbeat of Italy, driving the country into an industrial revolution, while simultaneously embedding the Anellis presence into nearly every facet of Italian life. At their peak, Gianni Anelli's companies alone accounted for almost 8% of Italy's GDP. Government decisions often mirrored Fiat's business interests, reflecting the company's unparalleled clout. But before the Anellis became synonymous with Italian capitalism, they were a modest family in Turin with a singular vision to create cars in a country that barely had proper roads. The story begins in 1899, when Italy was still consolidating as a nation. Northern Italy was rapidly industrializing, while much of the south remained agrarian and impoverished. Enter Giovanni Anelli, a man with a military background and an uncanny ability to identify opportunity amid chaos. While others clung to tradition, Anelli focused on engines mobility, and in a small group of investors, he founded Fabbrica Italiana Automobili Torino, better known as Fiat. By 1900, the first factory opened, and Anelli, as managing director, oversaw 35 workers who produced just 24 cars that year. That number may seem modest, but in a country where automobiles were virtually non-existent, this was groundbreaking. Anelli had created a market that didn't yet exist, laying the foundation for a business empire that would define modern Italy. By 1904, production had increased fivefold. 2 years later, Fiat was producing over 1,000 vehicles, and Anelli had opened a dealership in New York City, long before most Italians had ever owned a car. Remarkably, Giovanni had started as a junior partner, but eventually took full control of the company, acquiring crucial patents and introducing modern production techniques like early assembly lines and precision engine tooling. Fiat was now a step ahead of its time, yet success came with challenges. In 1908, Fiat faced its first major crisis when allegations of falsified accounts and inflated shares shook the company. Giovanni Anelli was dragged to court for stock manipulation but ultimately acquitted. The ordeal left a mark, making him far more cautious, strategic, and selective in his alliances. When World War I erupted, Anelli leveraged his experience to secure Fiat's future. Having survived public scandals and legal battles, he quickly pivoted to military production, converting Fiat's factories into essential suppliers for the Italian war effort. Trucks, tanks, airplanes, tractors, and diesel engines poured from Turin's factories, employing over 30,000 workers. The profits were substantial, but critics accused Fiat of war profiteering. To safeguard the company, Anelli aligned with Benito Mussolini, funding the rising nationalist leader. Mussolini, in turn, protected Fiat from public scrutiny and criticism. By the late 1930s, Fiat dominated Italy's industrial landscape with over 50,000 employees. When Italy sided with Nazi Germany during World War II, Fiat's production supported Mussolini's army, yet Giovanni was astute enough to shift allegiances when the war's outcome turned against Italy, quietly expressing sympathy for the Allies to protect the company and family name. Despite temporary asset seizures in 1945 for fascist collaboration, Fiat was deemed too vital to dismantle, and the Anellis emerged relatively unscathed, setting the stage for the next generation. After the war, leadership passed to Giovanni's grandson, Gianni Anelli, who took control in 1945. Sharp, ambitious, and politically savvy, Gianni understood that true power required both influence and strategic alliances. By 1963, he became managing director and within 3 years, chairman and CEO, effectively the most powerful industrialist in Western Europe. Under his guidance, Fiat propelled Italy from post-war devastation into modernity. Gianni was unafraid to cross ideological boundaries. During the Cold War, he partnered with the Soviet Union to build a factory capable of producing over 500,000 cars annually, proving that profit often trumped politics. Fiat's global footprint expanded, with factories from Moscow to Sao Paulo, and iconic Italian car brands Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, Lancia Maserati fell under the Anelli's control. Fiat became synonymous with engineering excellence, prestige, and scale, employing over 200,000 people and shaping entire communities in Turin and beyond. Gianni Anelli's ambitions extended past industry into culture and media. Recognizing that influence required more than factories and capital, the family moved to control narratives. Fiat's failed attempt to acquire Citroën in the 1960s blocked by French President Charles de Gaulle, underscored that political obstacles could limit industrial dominance. The Anellis learned that controlling perception was as important as controlling production. They expanded into media, eventually acquiring a 43.7% stake in Getty, Italy's largest media group, giving them influence over newspapers, radio, and regional publications. Later, in 2015, Exor, the family purchased 43.4% of The Economist, extending their reach beyond Italy to global decision-making circles. The media empire allowed the Anellis to shape public opinion, amplify favorable voices, and influence political narratives, cementing power that rivals even the most storied media dynasties. The Anellis reach didn't stop at media. In 1983, Alberto Anelli helped establish a European industrialist roundtable, connecting corporate influence with Brussels decision-makers. By 2016, Exor moved its legal and fiscal base to the Netherlands, giving the family greater flexibility, fewer legal constraints, and the ability to operate globally. By 2024, Exor held a significant stake in Claravit, a New York-listed data and analytics firm guiding investments, research, and policy worldwide. With access to critical information before it becomes public, the Anellis can anticipate shifts in pharmaceuticals, artificial intelligence, energy, and industry, positioning themselves to profit ahead of competitors. Cultural influence also remained a cornerstone of their strategy. In 1923, Edoardo Anelli became president of Juventus, Italy's most celebrated football club, fostering loyalty across social classes. Decades later, the family gained control over Ferrari, acquiring a majority stake by 1988 and linking their legacy to both the working class and elite. Sports victories mirrored industrial dominance, reinforcing the family's authority both on and off the field. With Fiat, Ferrari, Juventus, media holdings, and international investments, the Anellis built a multifaceted empire that extended from local towns in Italy to global corridors of power in Europe. Today, under John Elkann, the family legacy continues. Exor controls a €40 billion empire spanning Milan, Amsterdam, and beyond. But beyond money, true influence now comes from being present in the rooms where Europe's rules are written, in think tanks, foundations, and industry roundtables. Elkann's networks ensure the Anellis are embedded in European policy, making influencing green energy, mobility, industrial regulation, and technological innovation. From Turin to Brussels, their reach now extends far beyond cars, sports, or media. It shapes markets, narratives, and industries across an entire continent. The story of the Anellis is a testament to vision, patience, and strategic adaptability. They have survived political upheavals, wars, and economic crises while converting industrial success into lasting influence. From modest beginnings in Turin to shaping European policy, controlling major media outlets, sports teams, and iconic automotive brands, they have turned family legacy into continental power. In a Europe often perceived as democratic, the Anellis rise raises an intriguing question. Is the continent truly guided by the will of the people, or by dynasties that never left the corridors of influence?